There we go. Okay. Hi everyone. We can just keep this as kind of a very intimate and small talk. To just like let me know if you have any question at any point, and happy to answer any of the questions you may have. So this talk is going to share a little bit about the experiences we had running one of the largest, I think the world's largest generalized state channel network, and kind of analyzing the process of user growth and what happened during that process, and what are the things that we're doing to try to handle that. So before we go into that detail, I'm just going to kind of quickly introduce what is Celer and what is exactly the stuff that we are running tests on, which is a kind of user-facing application called Celer X. And we'll talk about why should developer care about what we are building and what we are bringing to the table as a value add. And finally, we'll talk about the lesson learned over the past 5 months since we launched the 2 version of our testnet. And we will talk about what's next for Celer, basically. So what is Celer is a layer 2 scaling platform that is operating on top of existing blockchains as an additional layer. And right now, we are mostly focusing on the underlying technology of generalized state channel as a scaling tool. And at the same time, we are also having a sidechain called State Guardian Network with plasma semantic sidechain. It's not plasma, but with plasma semantic of the past history attribution. Where we run all the security aspect of this, like the watchtower services of the state channel, right? So if you're offline, who will be watching for your state, and ensuring the security of the entire network. That part we implement as a kind of a staking-based sidechain, but with platform semantic. Currently we have a bunch of dev tools available with like iOS, Android, and Web SDK all available, and we went to a bunch of hackathons. There are very interesting things built like games, micropayment services, layer 2 decentralized financing, processes, and messenger integrated payments and stuff. So that is Celer, the backend or the network. But in addition to that, we also released something called Celer X, which is a user-facing application that everyone can download and kind of act as a user accessing point to the Celer network. This is like a mobile app. So what in the mobile app you can do, you can actually download this here. Yeah. What you can do, this is like the old version already. We actually just launched the private mainnet, in this event. It's just nobody knows it. So anyone who downloaded the app at our booth is actually running on Ethereum mainnet right now. But like this is a testnet application. You can kind of see this is like has a wallet feeling, and you can do this kind of instant payment without any transaction fee. Of course, it's off-chain and state channel. But what you can also do is this generalized state channel capability that you have an application built on top of this state channel. Now, this application itself is a very simple game. It's a board game that is interactive. Now, you can kind of play with your friend very easily by joining the game. And now what you're seeing here is like we're kind of putting down the stake, right? So we're putting down a stake. Now, what is a stake? And what happened just now is that you send out a conditional payment towards each other off-chain. And that's kind of the beautiful part of this. That is when we're distilling down the nature of generalized state channel to the payment network level, you basically enable additional semantic of payment, that is conditional payment. And that conditional payment is going to conditionally depending on the result of the game. The conditional payment is going to, often conditional payment is going to be depending on the result of the game. And the game itself is also implemented as a generalized state channel. It's still fully decentralized. There's no server, and that's why the interaction is extremely fast. You can see that kind of the state progression is fast, and there's no fee involved when you're doing this kind of smart contract transaction. So what really is good use case for Celer is to realize seamless user experience for human-to-human interaction applications. Either that is a micropayment-based streaming, or just kind of extremely interactive games, or things like a decentralized finance system where you can do like off-chain order matching of prediction market and stuff like that. So this is the nature of Celer. That is, when the people are interacting with each other, there is no fee because like the computation effort is carried out entirely by the state channel participants, and it's extremely interactive. So we launched 2 testnets so far. The first testnet was actually launched in Ethereum San Francisco last year, and this is where like this nice T-shirt thing come from. By the way, everyone in the room gets a T-shirt if you're interested. Yeah. We recently, in East Denver, around East Denver time, actually a little bit before East Denver time, we actually launched the second version of the testnet. There's a huge list of the features that we can support multi-node non-custodial and generalized payment. Support any ETH in the ERC20 means that once we launch, that you kind of natively support all sorts of stable tokens as well. And we have generalized state channel support. Of course, you can build this kind of games and applications on top, and we're going to wrap that up into an even simpler interface for the application developer to build. So they don't need to worry even about like the payment process part, just only the application logic. And in terms of state channel contract interfaces, we provide both functional and the imperative state channel contract interfaces. The list goes on, right? So, but in the end of the day, you can check out this links on our GitHub. But why do you actually care, right? Why should developer even care about like what we're building here? Well, because of this. So this is the monthly active user that is on our platform for that one simple, in fact, not that even fun game, board game, okay? And the interesting thing we see that it is, unlike many of the decentralized applications that are running today, the user growth trajectory of like the existing, things like today is kind of tanks, right? So it dies. But here we're seeing a sustainable and faster growth process, for this one application that is built on top of Celer's platform. And you can see there are some bumps on the road, and I will talk about what exactly happened during that process. Feel free to take a seat here or anywhere. Yeah. The interesting thing is that this is like the beauty of blockchain in general, I guess, that is like it's immediately global. We have a Firebase enabled, so we see that where our user coming from, and it's literally like all over the place in the world. So it's extremely exciting, including this very interesting place. I don't know if anyone can see where this is. It's Madagascar, yes, and this is like beautiful place. We have about 10 users in this beautiful place, and seriously considering hosting a meetup there, Yeah. All right. So not only the user numbers. User numbers are definitely not like the single characteristic of product growth or product market fit. I came from like traditional to consumer product facing side. So some of the interesting. This is like of course not the exhaustive list of the data, the user analyzing that we did. But right now we have roughly about 1,800 like monthly active users, and the good thing about this is like it's extremely engaging comparing to traditional decentralized applications because of this interactiveness enabled. So roughly speaking, for every active user per day, they spend about 12 minutes on the app, which is like pretty long comparing to even some of the very popular wallet applications today. The day 7 retention is consistently high, and we process like 4 million of off-chain smart contract transactions monthly, and that is like entirely free. Like even if we launch on mainnet, those transactions are effectively going to be entirely free because it's not like involving any kind of network resources of the entire blockchain network. So and these numbers that I just talked about resembles not a decentralized application, but a application that with like a proper growth, trajectory. The interesting thing is that just one note here is that this is just one application built on top of Celer, and on a paper money testnet. Like the token you just saw called a game token is on Robston, and that token we printed on Robston. So it's like literally double fake money, right? So. Yeah, but still, this kind of a smooth interaction attracts people so that many of the users we have do not even know how layer 2 works or state channel works. I think their knowledge level about blockchain is at the point of exchange buying and selling at most. and some of them are not even like understanding that part. But still, the stickiness is actually pretty good. So we believe that this kind of smooth interaction plus the extremely high transaction volume we see will turn into a very sustainable monetization path for Celer developers. And on that point, we will be launching the mainnet on end of June, and not only with the bare-bone Celer, mainnet, but also with a kind of a middleware or infrastructure built around it, so that people like game developers can very easily onboard their like a single player game, very simple player game or multiplayer game into a state channel game, and kind of start to harvest the the benefit from running this. By the way, like how many of you guys are developers or? Oh, okay, all right. So yeah, now I can like talk a little bit more about this part. So during the 5 months, we have some interesting lessons learned. This like is the same graph draw in logarithmic scale, so we can see this kind of interesting bumps more clear. So what happened? So we launched on Ethereum San Francisco here. We kind of grow a little bit, and here like we did some promotion on WeChat platforms, but then this area of like a user kind of died down, and I will talk about why that happened. And then we released a kind of a challenge or kind of a gamified process online to help people to promote like or try to play this game to gain some more users. And then we launched the second version of the testnet. It is about to go up very well, and then suddenly dropped. I'll talk about like what happened then. And by this time, so this is like not very clear. We had about roughly 4,000 like monthly active users basically by the time of like another big event of the big jump. Another big jump here is that we did our Binance Launchpad sale, and that helped us boost a lot of users as well, and they are pretty sustaining basically. So what happened to some of these bumps? This part, what happened to this like a user drop? This user drop mainly happened because we, in the beginning of the development, we rely heavily on event monitoring of like, because something like, you open a channel on chain, and that opening channel event will like, we will monitor an event there. And when the event happens, we say that in the SDK saying that the channel is successfully opened, right? So we had some external dependency to Infura back then, and we were using Infura's WebSocket like interfaces to kind of monitor those events. And if you guys considering doing anything like that, I strongly recommend against it. Because that's horrible experience we had. Like, once we start to scale up to users, and here we launched on WeChat platform, right? Remember, WeChat is like this Chinese kind of a blog platform, and people can go and download stuff. But after that, it worked for a very small amount of time, the connection to Infura. And then, I'm not sure whether that connection or that connectivity get identified as kind of a hostile connectivity. So the connectivity to Infura in China went black overnight. Okay, just like you cannot access to Infura anymore. Infura, this is a general problem if you're deploying your stuff on AWS and without like all this regulatory approvals in China as a like external website. If you have like some especially some irregular packet patterns going on, and this like resembles that, I guess. But I'm not sure what happened exactly. But like basically, China went dark. So we did the promotion, the user is growing, and then it dark. Okay, nothing happened. Like after that, we changed some strategy there and switched it to not only not using WebSocket, but also some other providers. I'm just not going to advertise who we are using right now, but like if you guys are interested in knowing and finding out like what are the providers that what are those providers that we used in terms of the Ethereum endpoint, I'm happy to share about the experiences we had. Now, this part is good. Like it's growing and growing, and we didn't do many promotions, of course, like in terms of marketing because it's fake money, Testnet, and people are kind of slowly going down in terms of user numbers. And then we launched the Celer X, like the new. So before this, like there was no Celer X. It was like very simple, a single page app that you can download and play. And we launched the Celer X, but with the second version of the testnet. But the testnet actually triggered something of a settlement storm. Because of a small protocol failure, we actually had a lot of people start to instantly settle their channel because they think that the channel, the counterparty is becoming malicious, which it's not. Like it's just like a very small error in the code, and that settlement storm basically triggered a significant pullback of the user count, because once the channel is settled, like people kind of lose interest to this process, and it creates additional barrier for them to come back up into the state channel, right? So that cost us something, and we quickly fixed that. And on ETHDenver, we kind of relaunched this thing. And if any of you have attended the ETHDenver, you probably like saw us like all these awards and stuff. We still have those, by the way, if you're interested in playing the game. And now fast forward to end of March. In end of March, we did a Binance-related event, and the event is basically just like the first airdrop event of any real monetization, monetary motivation that we had for users, and they're like extremely powerful in the sense that I think it's a go-to marketing channel for crypto community. Like if you could get there, because within 15 minutes of the post to the Twitter about like this event, we received 30,000 requests to open channel. Okay, this is like insane. But you didn't see a 30,000 jump there, because the time to open a state channel actually takes quite a long time to open a channel, and also gas cost, right? So the result of that is that we basically congested the entire Robuston for about 18 hours. Okay, still it does not match the speed of people flowing in. About 80% to 85% of the people who downloaded our app just couldn't even open the channel with the application. And then people are starting complaining, people are calling our scams, all that stuff started to happen. Okay, it's pretty stressful. 18 hours. Our team basically didn't sleep for like 24 hours or even longer than that. But the problem about that though is like there's literally nothing we can do, like fundamentally, because of the fundamental slowness of the underlying blockchain. Now we have like this huge creation storm to mitigate, and we are putting a lot more considerations in that process, because like once we launch on mainnet, this thing is likely to become a problem if we put any of the big event or user growth event out there. So hopefully in the mainnet launch, no one will even feel the slightest friction there, and we have some nice tricks to do about that basically. So this is like the technical part. So far, any questions? All right. Okay, I can move on to the user experience part. So these are the literal word by word recording of like what people are saying about our app. It's very encouraging if you look at these, and it's the kind of app I would use in future. Instant payment, final instantly. I deploy the transactions that are there. Experience is pretty awesome. Yay, we're like super awesome this layer 2 UX. Turns out that we're in a bubble. So those feedbacks we got from ETHDenver. ETHDenver is I would say like a relatively highly technical crowd with a crypto background. So they understand what's going on. They kind of suffered from blockchain already. We all did, right? So because of the slow UX, now slight improvement make them think, oh, this is nice. But once we start to push this to broader audience who has like a not deep technical knowledge about layer 2 scaling, limitation of scaling and stuff like that, all sorts of questions start to pop up. And in fact, I would claim that getting layer 2 UX right is even trickier than getting layer 1 UX correct. Those are the questions now coming from not the East Denver crowd, but the Binance airdrop activity crowd. Okay, and the biggest question we get asked is because in state channel or any kind of like off-chain solutions, even with Plasma and sidechain and stuff, there's a process to move your fund from the wallet that you hold to an external contract, right? So there's unavoidably that process. So that process feels to a lot of normal user like a process. It feels like to a lot more user, feels like a process of depositing to exchanges, right? It feels very much like depositing to a centralized exchange that is kind of managed by us. So that puts a lot of responsibility to us, and they are saying like, oh, are you actually holding custodian for fund and stuff like that? And we're even worried like the regulator may think about that, and that's a big different story. Another thing that some people found out that once I open a state channel, the promise that I can send instant payment, with low transaction fee and all that stuff, right? So now I have my friend's wallet address. I'm just putting my friend's wallet address in and click send. There's a arrow pop up saying that okay, your friend didn't open a state channel. Look, why? Oh, they kind of are very angry about this. Like why can't I just use state channel and send the payment to anyone? And another thing is that there are cases where the connection broke between these two participants of a game, right? So in that case, one party or the other party, actually both of them probably want to go on-chain and settle the game. But during the settlement process, their money or the initial deposit or fund assignment to the game is stuck in between. And many of the questions we got is like, why my money is stuck while my opponent actually went offline? Because I started the on-chain challenge and
2 minutes left.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I started the on-chain challenge, but it didn't actually get through. Basically, I'm waiting for that timeout. Basically, so there are many questions like this, and I think to really leverage the power of layer 2 scaling so that it delivers fully end-to-end the level of user experience everyone would expect. These kind of user experience questions I think are very important and need to be addressed. And what's next for us is that on the technical side, we're building a coherent layer 2 platform using different technology pieces and with a mass adoption ready UX, and that including state channel, but we are also looking at sidechains as well. Our mainnet launch is coming on Q2 2019. And this is something we'll have some exciting activities, and hopefully we fix many of the UX problem. And it'll be great to have you guys feedback and try out then. With that, this is our website. And any questions? Quick one, maybe 1 or 2 questions.
Did anybody ask you questions about? I will still probably ask you later, but how you incentivize watchtowers and how actually that works inside the network.
Yes. So that whole construct is called C economy. That's where you use the Celer token, and that is kind of like a staking process, basically. We have that in our YouTube channel about the full description of the economic construct. Yeah. All right.
Can we set up our
Yeah, of course. Yep.